Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron's right here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. The Nation of Islam's infiltration and takeover of Scientology seems to be moving on quite nicely. This is one of the greatest mysteries of the known universe. How a black nationalist organization like the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan's Nation of Islam, managed to partner up with one of the whitest organizations in existence, the Church of Scientology. How two separate UFO cults formed an alliance. I guarantee you, David Miscavige thought he was gonna come out the main benefactor of this alliance. The complete opposite has turned out to be true. I'm going to share with you a post that I saw yesterday on Mike Rinder's blog that just, I just have to show it to you. I mean, it speaks for itself. Okay, this is a promo piece from the Nation of Islam for an event, The Power of the X, and its true meaning, the power of unity. We see here, we have a gentleman known as Tony Muhammad. He's been known as Tony for quite some time, but now he goes by Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad. And this is an event being held at 8039 South Vermont Avenue. And the blog post says 8039 South Vermont Avenue is the Church of Scientology L. Ron Hubbard Community Center. The poster doesn't even identify this building as the L. Ron Hubbard Community Center in the promo piece, because within the Nation of Islam, this building is simply known as Mosque 27. IAS Freedom Medal winner and proud Scientologist Tony Muhammad is preaching squirrel non-Scientology stuff in this Scientology building. You can read the earlier piece that I wrote on this. Nation of Islam is winning the war with Scientology. Clearly, the Nation of Islam is rolling forward, taking advantage of the gullible fools at the Inglewood organization who are so desperate for acceptance and have nothing going on themselves. Quick introduction to how the whole Nation of Islam Scientology partnership even got started. One of the earliest chapters in this story is when Isaac Hayes, I think it was Isaac Hayes and not Dougie Fresh, both Isaac Hayes, Dougie Fresh is alive and is a Scientologist. Isaac Hayes is dead and was a Scientologist. One of them went to David Miscavige and said, how come there aren't more black people in Scientology? And David Miscavige answered in one of the most, or responded in one of the most, to me, unintentionally racist ways, which is, instead of trying to reflect on what it is about Scientology that perhaps is not inviting or welcoming to the Black American community, he's like, maybe we don't have a Scientology organization where the black folks live. So David Miscavige slam dunked, paid for brand new. There was no organic demand. He slam dunked new Scientology organizations in Harlem and Inglewood. That was David Miscavige's response for, how can we not have more black people in Scientology? By the way, David Miscavige, sir, black people do live in every city where there's a Scientology organization. So the answer for why there aren't more black people in Scientology isn't because you don't have an org in Harlem or you don't have an org in Inglewood. Most of you guys know who've been watching my channel for any amount of time. My Scientology history is mostly in Philadelphia. The black population in Philadelphia is the majority. And there was an average of 0 black Scientologists, public Scientologists or staff members. It was really awkward. Scientology is just so white. All of its promo is white. All of its films, everyone is white. It's white, 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 white. Okay. But David Miscavige is like, I know how we'll attract black people. We'll go to Harlem and Inglewood. There's a black Baptist minister named, oh my God, please don't let me blank out on his name. Oh my God. What is this guy's name? I'm horribly embarrassed. Okay. Alfredi Johnson, Reverend Alfredi Johnson. He is the guy David Miscavige marches out. That David Miscavige marches out to be like, look, black people like us, or look, you can be Christian and be a Scientologist. Reverend Alfredi Johnson is one of these reverends who doesn't really have a church, doesn't really have a congregation. He actually operates these financial fraud schemes using these front groups. His wife and his son went to prison for it. Or the wife, they pled out. Some of them went to prison, some of them pled out. And he's one of these people who was allowed to continue calling himself a reverend and a minister because he wasn't really one. He used to be one. Then he got into Scientology. You can't really be both. But Alfredi Johnson is the one who had connections into the world of the Nation of Islam. And as these organizations, particularly the one in Inglewood, as these organizations were created, it somehow allowed Alfredi Johnson to foster this relationship between the Nation of Islam and Scientology. And then Alfredi Johnson then sort of faded into the background a little bit. And Tony Muhammad, not Tony. What does he want to be known as now? Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad. His friends call him Tony. Tony became the new token guy that David Miscavige would march out to be like, look, everyone, black people like us. And we're culturally inclusive. Not only do we have our Black Baptist friend, but now we've got our Black Nation of Islam friend. Aren't we special? Okay, so that's my short little nutshell version of and believe I didn't even do it justice. You guys have to, if you have any interest in going down this rabbit hole, find the many videos that exist out there of Louis Farrakhan talking about L. Ron Hubbard and his great technology of Dianetics and how using Dianetics auditing will rid all the young black men of their trauma that gets passed on generationally. And it's really quite incredible. Now, when this whole relationship first started, it really did seem that the Nation of Islam members who were, they were starting their own Dianetics centers and doing whole giant co-audits and everything, that it was going to stop at Dianetics. It seemed like this relationship couldn't possibly pass beyond Dianetics because Dianetics is at least just this lifetime stuff. It's just, technically, it's just kind of a poor man's psychotherapy. You could probably do Dianetics without it obviously conflicting with Nation of Islam religious beliefs. But once you get into actual Scientology, these two things are not compatible. Never mind you, Scientology has rules against members practicing anything other than Scientology. It's called offbeat practices, squirrel practices, and other practices. So it seemed absolutely impossible that these Nation of Islam members could actually progress higher and higher and higher on Scientology's bridge. But Tony Muhammad not only attested to clear, not only has he done the superpower auditing in Scientology, but he's actually done his OT levels. Tony Muhammad has done OT3. So Tony Muhammad is like literally doing auditing that requires him to remember millions and billions of years ago on other planets and other solar systems and other galaxies and other universes. And he knows about Xenu and the hydrogen bombs and the volcanoes and the body thetans. And I personally don't know how it's possible for someone to live in both worlds. You can't actually completely believe in both of these things. Here, I'll show you this just for example. This is pictures of Tony Muhammad getting his IAS Freedom Medal, which is the same medal that Tom Cruise was awarded, but Tom Cruise got a special version of it. You can see how prominently featured Tony Muhammad is in so much of this Scientology promo. And okay, so now in the first blog post here, he mentioned an earlier blog post from about a month ago. So I'm going to show you this because this is really something. Wait, hold on. I'm losing my place here. Did we finish the first one? Yeah, we finished the first one. Okay, here we go. Now, I think I did a video on this when this blog post came out, but just in case I didn't, I really want to show you guys. Nation of Islam is winning the war with Scientology. This building, okay, so you see this community center building here. This building was purchased and renovated concurrent with the Inglewood Ideal organization. Okay, I want to show you on a map the location of Scientology's Inglewood organization in relation to the Community Test Center. Okay, so if you see this map here, this structure here, that's SoFi Stadium where the Rams play, and this pin over to the northwest of the stadium, that is the Scientology organization of Inglewood. Okay, this one over here, you can see the pin over on the northeast of the stadium. That is the community center. Now, let me show you. This is actually 25 minutes south of L. Ron Hubbard Way. It is quite a hike. So I kind of just want to show you that if I don't mess up my map navigational ability here. There you go. Okay, way up here, we're talking way up here is actually L. Ron Hubbard Way. Just to kind of, so we zoom all the way out of L. Ron Hubbard Way, and boom, that's the community center down there. Okay, let's take another shot of this community center. This is it, 8039 Vermont. Very clearly says Church of Scientology. Imagine being a member of the Nation of Islam. They say, let's meet tonight at Mosque 27. And you show up and it says Church of Scientology on it. Like, how does this work, you guys? It's also a building that has a, spoiler alert, giant Scientology cross on it. How is all of this possible? Okay, let's go back to the blog post. The building was purchased, the community center was purchased and renovated concurrent with the Inglewood Ideal Organization. It was announced as a facility that would host local groups and a place where the org could introduce the community to Scientology and offer a venue for the front groups of Scientology to operate. Since the efforts to bring the Nation of Islam on board began, it has been an interesting spectator sport to try and figure out whether Scientology could absorb the Nation of Islam and thereby increase its membership, or whether this might end in a colossal backfire. It has never seemed realistic for Miscavige to believe he could recruit a significant number of Nation of Islam members and convert them to Scientologists, though there have been things that have made it seem like his plan was having some success, most notably the prominent Nation of Islam figure, Tony Muhammad, advancing up the bridge to the OT levels, and Tony Muhammad being awarded the IAS Freedom Medal. He appeared to be the great example of converting Nation of Islam members into Scientologists. But a recent event held right in the L. Ron Hubbard Community Center provides a different perspective. It appears the NOI have decided to take everything Scientology will give them and use it to forward their objectives, completely independent of anything Scientological. We have seen this earlier when the Nation of Islam took over the Applied Scholastics headquarters in St. Louis and made it into a singles retreat. That seemed to be a one-off, but this latest from Inglewood is much bolder. Tony Muhammad posted about a recent event on Facebook. He identifies the building as our Mosque 27. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Tony Muhammad posts on Facebook. This is when he was actually going by Tony. Maybe he still does go by Tony a little bit here, and then Abdul Salik Muhammad somewhere else. Student minister Abel Muhammad was our guest speaker at Mosque 27. We had over 250 first-time guests and over 500 in attendance. Nearly 100 people joined the Nation of Islam. We thank Allah for our brother. He delivered a powerful message. All right, guys, Scientology has never packed this building out for any Scientology event, but look how much they were able to pack it for an NOI event. Okay, so the community center is now Mosque 27. Yeah. The Nation of Islam got more stats at the community center than Scientology themselves have ever been able to get. Wow. See, when Scientology releases their shots of spaces, they do special camera angles to make it look full. They also use Photoshop to fill in seats. No reason to do any of those special tricks here for the Nation of Islam events. Guys, I mean, this one just really got me. They literally covered up the Scientology symbol on the podium of the facility. What an FU to Scientology. Wow. 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 Unbelievable. A black nationalist organization taking over one of the whitest organizations there is. By the way, I think I mentioned this several times in my videos. When I ran for Clearwater City Council, I had access to all the voter registration information. There's a special app, special platforms for candidates can register with to know which doors to knock on and stuff like that. I pulled all of the voter registration records from every Scientology property in Clearwater. So I had a full list of all, it wasn't all registered Scientologists because there's no way for me to know in the residential neighborhoods who is and who is not a Scientologist. But I basically had and I still have a list of every Scientology Sea Org member who's registered to vote in Clearwater. Those records come with demographic information like race. And I was able to prove with actual hard numbers that less than 2% of all Scientology Sea Org members are non-white. That doesn't even mean black. That could mean Pacific Islander. That would be anything other than white. Less than 2% of all Scientology Sea Org members were registered as something other than white. That's how white Scientology is. Let me see. What else did I think I had some other points I wanted to hit on this. Yeah. It's easy to just assign all this weirdness to financial motives. Scientology has a commission system. Anyone that you introduce to Scientology is called your selectee, and you are called their field staff member or FSM. And you, as an FSM, get commissions 10, 15, sometimes up to 20% of every dollar your selectee pays to Scientology, whether it's for a course, whether it's for auditing, whether it's a donation to the IAS. When in trying to make sense of why Tony Muhammad would be riding so hard for Scientology, it's easier for me to go, well, it makes a pretty penny. If he gets a few hundred people into Scientology, he's making mad commissions on them. It's easy to say that. I'm not entirely convinced it's true. I'm not entirely sure that tells the whole story. Because if these Nation of Islam members have the spare cash to spend on Scientology stuff, wouldn't Tony Muhammad rather they spend that money on Nation of Islam stuff? I don't have any understanding of the actual structure of the Nation of Islam or how the finances work. Is there a donation system? Is there a tithing system? Would Tony Muhammad maybe I'm out on a limb here, guys. I'm just talking. It's 11:46 at night. We're just shooting the shit, talking about some ideas. Could it be true that there's no real mechanism by which Tony Muhammad can transfer his members' cash into his cash? Is it possible that mechanism doesn't exist within the Nation of Islam? But if you get that person into Scientology, all of a sudden there's a mechanism. I've got to talk to someone. I have to talk to someone on this channel who is a member or former member of the Nation of Islam. To be continued, guys. To be continued. Okay, what do we have here? Let's go through some comments and then we will wrap it up. Are we talking about a real mosque or a fake Nation of Islam mosque? I'm glad you asked that. I actually meant to clarify that earlier on in the video. Actual Muslims don't consider Nation of Islam members to be Muslim. And, I say that might be way too much of a blanket statement, because wasn't Louis Farrakhan friends with, who was that, that leader over in the Middle East of one of the Islamic countries who had all the plastic surgery and then was murdered by his people? I'm looking in the live chat, guys. Who am I thinking of? Who's the guy? I'm going to Google it. Which Middle Eastern leader had a lot of plastic surgery? Gaddafi. Yes, Gaddafi. Gaddafi was Muslim, right? I guess I should ask that. Was Gaddafi Muslim? Under the revolutionary Gaddafi government, the role of Orthodox Islam in Libyan life became progressively more important. Muammar al-Gaddafi was a highly devout Muslim. Okay, Louis Farrakhan was pretty tight with Gaddafi. So I feel like Gaddafi probably considered Louis Farrakhan to be an actual Muslim. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been so buddy-buddy with him. So again, I'm out of my depth here, guys. I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, except that I've spoken to a lot of people who are much more familiar with these matters than me, including people who are actually Muslim, who said, no. They're sort of an offshoot. It's almost like they consider they're one of us, but we don't consider they're one of us because they have Elijah Muhammad. And a Muslim would not recognize Elijah Muhammad, and they would probably consider a belief that Elijah Muhammad was the prophet as being disqualifying for calling yourself a Muslim. And I think that is kind of the nature of this question. Is this a real mosque, a Muslim mosque, or is it a Nation of Islam mosque? And the answer is obviously we're talking about a Nation of Islam mosque. Kenny Adcox, Kenny Adcox. How many Scientology buildings are there in the United States? There are approximately 50 to 75 actual Scientology organizations in the United States. That's like class 5 organizations or above. I don't count missions because missions simply don't count. Pinche Becky says Inglewood was a largely Black community and then Latino and now gentrification. All right, good to know. Robert Verstraeten. Scientology declares its SPs. Islam beheads theirs. Oh, spicy. Shots fired. They deserve each other. Pinche Becky, the Inglewood community doesn't like Scientology. They are buying all the mom and pop stores on Market Street, blocks away from the SoFi and the new Clippers Stadium. Becky, are you saying Scientology is buying all the mom and pop stores on Market Street? If that's true, can you shoot me an email, growingupin.Scientology@gmail.com. Oh no, Nora, could they have sold it to the Nation of Islam for a profit? More money laundering? God, I cannot imagine Scientology uses that center for anything at all other than Nation of Islam events. Miscavige could make a pretty penny flipping that property to the NOI. That's actually not a bad idea. Andrew B, they have money and shared enemies. That's what it's about, I imagine. They do? Who are their shared enemies? The Nation of Islam's enemies are the Jews. And Scientology happens to have an awful lot of Jewish members. I don't know. I'd be curious to know what you think their shared enemies are. Cutesy J, has the Church of Scientology ever tried to cherry pick members from other religions before? Or do you foresee them attempting this with other religions in the future? I can't think of anything else that compares to what has happened with the Nation of Islam. And I don't know of an effort prior to it, and I would not predict an effort subsequent to it. Oh, old Frizz. Oh, this is the comment of the night so far. Ideal Mosque. Oh, that's amazing. Another YouTube. Islamists would join Scientology to try to dismantle it and convert it from within. It's Mike Sandoval. It's an historic building. One of the first auto strip malls for shopping built in the 1920s. All righty. Andrew B, did he really do the levels though, or was it just for PR? Oh, I promise you he really did them. Yeah. Adam Carmona, that would be the ultimate twist. Scientologists all converting to the Nation of Islam. You know, it's funny. White people cannot be a member of the Nation of Islam. So I think this is probably why David Miscavige thought that the benefits were going to go one way. He didn't predict that they were just going to take over their properties. Yeah. So, but I guess as far as membership goes, Scientology has gained a bunch of new members from the Nation of Islam. And the Nation of Islam hasn't gained any members from Scientology because they don't let white people join. And so I guess Dave got to pad his stats a little bit, and the Nation of Islam got some sweet real estate. I think Louis Farrakhan won in this deal. Heidi Butler, will Dave see this photo? Maybe. Nora says, I would bet there are more Nation of Islam members in Los Angeles than there are Scientologists worldwide. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Heidi Butler, I wish we could pipe in the audio of L. Ron Hubbard talking about Black people. Yes. Now, to be fair, look, I've only been exposed to probably the selectively selected and edited materials of L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard said some strong, strange things about Black people in South Africa and specifically South Africa. He really had a thing for black people in South Africa. And the Butus, the Buntus, some other like clan that he wanted to write about. But to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing L. Ron Hubbard ever said about all black people. But again, a lot of the material, especially in the later years, I mean, I was, I didn't really start like studying Scientology on my own as a young person until like 1993. Some of the more egregious stuff was probably already removed or edited out. I do remember someone saying, who worked at Golden Era Productions, that a lot of the racial slurs L. Ron Hubbard would use were edited out of the lectures. But yeah, anyway, nonetheless, your point stands. D. Marie, I studied some Middle Eastern religions, and I don't know how this would be acceptable, but I'm not an expert. Yeah. Jeep Network, I go to college in DC, and recently every single door in the dorm had a copy of The Way to Happiness and another book under the door. Is this a new strategy? This strategy has kind of been around for a while. One morning, everyone in Clearwater, Florida woke up to find the latest edition of Scientology's Freedom magazine hanging in a bag on the doorknob. It was so weird, and people were so creeped out about it that the Tampa Bay Times wrote a whole ass article about it. So, Jeep Network, I mean, somebody might have specifically donated a whole lot of money specifically for that purpose. Who knows? Not a new strategy, but it's also not something that happens all the time. So, I mean, it's interesting. Nora says 2%. Where have I heard that percentage before? There you go. Heidi Butler, do you think they were charged a fee for the room rental? No, I think that's why they use the space. It's 100% free. This is something that even here where I live in Clearwater, Florida, the Flag Land Base, Flag and the Fort Harrison Hotel will let local nonprofits use their crystal ballroom on the 10th floor of the Fort Harrison Hotel to host events for their nonprofit. And not only is there no fee to use the space, it is fully catered by Sea Org members working for slave wages, the food cooked by Sea Org members working for slave wages, and the nonprofits just love it. They get treated like royalty, but they're not allowed to go anywhere unattended. They're not allowed to walk around by themselves. They're escorted up and down in the elevators. They're not, you got to keep them, they're only allowed to see what they're allowed to see, and they're not allowed to go wandering around talking to people. You know how people get when they start talking. Adam Carmona, the Nation of Islam is heretical by Orthodox Muslim standard. They believe God came to earth as a man. W.D. Fard. Oh, as a man, W.D. Fard? Like God's name was W.D. Fard? Wild. Andrew B. says he was tight with Hillary Clinton too. I'll take your word for it. It's Mike Sandoval. The building sat empty for decades because it can't be torn down. Oh, because it's a historical building. It says, why are there white people in the audience? Did I not look closely enough? I don't know. Maybe they're Scientologists wanting to fill seats. Like, I don't know. But just because they're in the audience doesn't mean they're members of the Nation of Islam. Maybe David Miscavige was persuaded by force. Definitely not. Definitely Miscavige fostered this relationship. Okay, let's see. Oh, someone explains that Gaddafi was an opportunist. The Nation of Islam's heresy would not have been an issue. Okay, good to know. Arturo says, I think the Nation of Islam is only interested in using the auditing tech, nothing more. Well, that's what they said. But using the auditing tech means all you're going to do is read Dianetics and do Dianetics auditing. The book Dianetics says you're supposed to be able to achieve the state of Dianetic clear just using the procedure that's in Dianetics. Now, David Miscavige won't let anybody attest to clear just from doing book 1 Dianetics procedure. You have to do an awful lot of new era Dianetics, and you have to run deep hold track with high reality, which is not something you do on book 1 Dianetics. So when you say just using the auditing tech, I mean, that's really what Scientology is about, is getting auditing and going over the bridge. So when they say, and nothing more, what more do they think there is? Especially if you're getting your auditing at an actual Scientology org. those case supervisors and the ethics officers have to apply the same rules to everyone. There's no special set of rules for Nation of Islam folks. So it's like you're gonna get into the ethics tech, you're gonna get into the PTSSP tech, you're gonna get into disconnection, you're gonna get into overts and withholds, you're gonna get into the dynamics, you're gonna get into survival, and you're gonna get into past lives. How is Scientology's belief in past lives compatible with the belief system of the Nation of Islam? It couldn't possibly be. All right, let's see here. All right, I think we are going to wrap it up there. This has been a blast, guys. I've been catching up on a whole bunch of the items on my video list today, so that's why I did this, even though it's kind of late. Figured get it done today. I got so much more to do tomorrow. Hit that like button, guys, if you're still here. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this evening. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,